And good evening, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Welcome to my channel. It's me, Heidi. Now, tonight we have a very special guest. You might recognize her from my season 1 of my channel. Welcome. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Heidi. Well, I'm here to celebrate International Women's Day. Woo! And also this week, my birthday. So great to be here. I'm an activist. I'm a green activist, also LGBTIQ activist, and my niche field there is transgender children and young people and their families. What else? I forgot. I forgot. We revealed last time. I'm this person's mom.
Yes. Wonderful as always. Now, as main course for tonight is an article from Euronews, Brussels' own course for struggle with Hungary and Poland as first ever LGBTIQ strategy is unveiled. So, what was your take when you became aware of this topic?
Well, I know you told me that you were inspired by this article on Euronews. Well, the strategy was actually, it was introduced last November, and presented to the European Parliament, etc. It's quite maybe we can talk about the strategy later, but this is the article. On the screen
we have the article now.
Huh?
We have the Euronews article on the screen right now.
I know. Yep, I can see.
There we go.
Yep. The struggle with Hungary and Poland at the point of time when this first LGBTIQ strategy is presented. We all know, the ones who followed things and developments in Europe, we know that Poland and Hungary are on a very, very dangerous path towards increasingly decreasing the rights of their rainbow population. And we know that in Poland there are certain municipalities which have declared themselves anti or non-LGBTIQ, etc. So presenting this strategy is in clear contrast with these countries' policies. So this is the struggle which is mentioned in the headline. And what will follow, obviously, is some kind of conflict. And we observe with great interest what will happen. The strategy as such contains all the elements, or many of the elements which Poland and Hungary have got rid of, such as it's mentioned in one of the links to this article, if anyone took note of it, is the fact that self-determination of a person's legal gender is a part of the things suggested in the strategy. Now, in Hungary, you can no longer change your gender.
And this is to say, you cannot change your gender in terms of legal paperwork. Of course, that is not to say that transitioning as per se would be illegal or banned, but it has been made difficult in many countries.
Yes.
And Hungary and Poland are not the only ones, are not the only countries in Europe where legal transitioning has been made increasingly difficult, and
Yeah.
has been so for a number of years now.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think what we have at hand right now is the case with regards to Hungary and Poland, which many of us have seen that on the news. I was aware of the situation uh, going on in Poland and
Mm.
Hungary, but however, what I wasn't aware of was this strategy from the European Commission, which
Yeah.
now came to my attention via Euronews, which
Yeah.
is
Okay. That's great because
so that
it's
is the reason why I am making this stream tonight,
yeah. Yeah.
to discuss this with someone, with an activist who knows something maybe something more than average on this subject, who
Mm.
has maybe perhaps dug a little deeper on these matters,
Yeah.
which is a really good thing that I have managed to get one of these people on my show. But
Yep.
those um, watching who do not know, I think there might be people watching now or as replay what all this LGBTIQ means. Uh, LGBTQ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, non-binary, intersex, and queer people, and that is the abbreviation we will be using tonight.
Yeah.
So, um, it this this plan or announcement from the European Commission came some days after Hungary unveiled plans to curb LGBTIQ rights.
Mm.
Uh, how is it that the European Commission, known for chiseling around plenty of memos for a good chunk of time before coming to a conclusion on an issue, managed to get to wrap up this package in just a matter of days?
No, 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 that was not the case. No, it was hung. The this kind of big strategy is not something that they uh, present just like that. Now, this strategy is a part of the kind of the equality plans which were already presented earlier, and now because this is a 5-year plan. It's
Yes.
a 5-year strategy which contains many more elements than mentioned here in this article, or in this article they mentioned very briefly, because it's an overall strategy to combat discrimination against LGBTIQ people, and in employment, for instance, and the the purpose is to strengthen the equality bodies in the member states, which fight all kinds of discrimination on the basis of gender,
Yes.
etc., etc. It's
And
worth bearing in mind that that actually, for instance, my country, Finland, did not have proper uh, equality legislation apart from gender equality before we joined the European Union. So the meaning that this kind of a strategy can have for the member states is for them to introduce locally measures that can improve the situation for LGBTI people, because one of the purposes is to improve the safety of LGBTI people. We know, and it's a sad fact, that in many countries, LGBTI people are more often than others victims uh, of crime and
Of
violence.
and all kinds of other
And
abuse,
yeah,
and
and
more than anything, hate crimes.
exactly. And hate crime, hate speech and hate crime through the presentation of this strategy,
Mm.
uh, introduction of the measures will be a part of a list of so-called EU crimes,
Uh-huh.
which at the moment do not include hate crimes and hate speech.
Is that
Because
right?
in today's world, combating hate speech on all fronts, actually, not
Hmm.
just LGBT, etc. letters,
Long
people,
list, yes.
yeah, but in general,
Yeah,
we're living in interesting times, and
indeed we are.
on the one hand, things are getting worse, and on the other, things are getting better. Now,
Indeed.
mm,
Which is
and
in many
actually,
ways interesting.
yeah.
And it's interesting that this wasn't long ago. Was it this November, December last year? I think this article was. This Euronews article came out. So basically, it it's it's quite likely that it just flew under my radar because there are
Mm,
so because there's this lagerlurgy going on and all kinds of other news. So
yeah.
I think I'll just bring up the here. So there will they each yes each member state is thus urged to develop their own action plans to tackle discrimination against LGBTIQ people and promote equality. And the Commission's proposal is likely to meet fierce resistance from a number of countries, including Hungary and Poland. I think this backlash did happen from mentioned countries, didn't it? After this came out.
Well, this backlash has been going on as long as the leading parties in these countries have been in power.
Yeah,
The
and how long that would be?
Fidesz party in Hungary and the PiS party in Poland.
Peace, yes, Peace Party, and
Yes,
which is it's Law and Justice. For those who don't
Law
know,
and Justice.
it's an ultra conservative party, which is mo- as I understand it, for the most part, behind this all this oppression of LGBTIQ people in Hungary, Poland. Sorry, would
Yeah,
it be fair to say that they are kind of one of the
yeah,
main drivers of this um, this oppression campaign in
yeah,
Poland,
yeah.
or is there other factors at play in Poland or Hungary than these ultra conservative parties? Or is there or are these ultra conservatives the main aggravators?
Well, these are the main players anyway in
Okay,
this.
and so what? So what? How long would this European Commission plan or strategy plan slash strategy has how how long has it been boiling before it came out? Just days after, conveniently, just days after this
Well,
Hungary and Poland stuff.
I don't. Well, I'm not an expert, but these kind of strategy, it takes this commission has been obviously been preparing it since for, I don't know, since they came into power. So yeah,
So
it's a 5 year plan, which has lots of elements, such as the things I mentioned, which is very important, the recognition of the rights of rainbow families, the custody of children, and marriage, because each country, there is no universal European family law. Family law is always a national competence, but there are all kinds of arrangements and agreements on how it should be applied in these cross-border situations.
right,
But then the application to rainbow families is yet another matter,
of course
because
it's another
obviously,
matter. It's as I understand it, it's still part of the strategy the European Commission came with that to improve the rights of rainbow families. Was it not? Or is
hmm?
that correct? That is it correct? Safe to say that the strategy the European Commission came out with, it does include strategies to um, say at least to increase or try to improve the rights and security safety of rainbow families in the European Union countries.
Well, yeah, well, the measures for the recognition of the existence of the family.
Mm-hmm.
If just imagine if you have a family where the parents, a rainbow family that moves to another EU country, where
Yes.
where the relationship between the parents is not recognized, and possibly the relationship between one of the parents to the child is not recognized, because
Okay.
yeah, so
Yes, and
in case the parent, there is one, for instance, one biological parent or birth parent, another parent whose custody is not recognized. So yes, that's not a very safe environment for a child, when they know that if something happens, one of their parents is not recognized as their parent
yes,
in that country, or that their parents' marriage is not recognized as such. So if something happens to one parent, then what?
exactly. Then what? Yes,
Mm,
that is the question we need to keep asking from those who have the power to decide on these
yeah,
matters.
exactly. And of
And
course, yeah, let me continue. If in a divorce situation, one parent could take advantage of a legal vacuum and go to, if they wanted one, for instance, to take the children, and they could go to another EU country where there is this legal vacuum. So these are the family law implications.
which we are
And of
yet to battle to combat in in both national level. In the country of Finland, for example, there is still work to do on the family legislation, as well as probably most other European Union countries.
Yeah.
It's not that straightforward.
No, it's not straightforward.
Unfortunately, there is uh, towards the end of the article, we have uh, this um, title, Rising Discrimination here. 14 of the EU's member states, as well as the UK, have made same-sex marriage legal, and several others have some form of same-sex civil union, which we had in Finland, as well as many of those countries who now have the same-sex marriage bill in place used to have. However, Bulgaria, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, and Slovakia do not provide registered partnership, which I discussed in another stream with Arthur Weber. I think it was on Sunday, or the previous live stream I had with Arthur, when we discussed the situation in Romania, which is quite a bit different from what we have here in Finland. That came with the issue of the legal recognition of gender of transgender people. The situation in Romania as of right now is that genital surgery, or the genital reassignment surgery, is required in Romania in order to get the legal recognition of the sort of the gender to which this transgender person has transitioned to. So that is quite a bit worse than many other European countries, which is, I hope, a part of this strategy to abolish these kinds of laws and legislations within, not just in particular countries, Romania, Poland, Hungary, not just them, but the entire European Union, because even though we have better legislation in, say, Belgium, the Netherlands, UK, and Finland, we still have things to improve when it comes to equal rights of LGBTIQ plus people. I could go on, start down the rabbit hole of talking about just trans rights, but that is not the point tonight. Tonight we have all LGBTIQ people and their rights in Europe. All of these countries have to allow entry to the non-EU partner of an EU citizen if partnership is registered abroad, although the level of rights they will get will differ, and this is something that needs to be fixed also. And surely I hope that this would be included in the strategy the European Commission came out with.
Yeah.
So being more familiar with the strategies than I am, how much would you say that things like this are included in said strategy? The rights and the right for a non-EU partner to enter the EU and then have the same rights as the local couples, being both being EU nationals.
Right. Well, I mean, I think this. I'm not an expert on this particular strategy, but yeah, if I understand correctly, there are elements which are also aimed at uh, cooperation, development cooperation, plus neighborhood cooperation. So with the European Union's cooperation with its neighboring countries.
Yes.
But the detail you mentioned, I don't have any information about that. But we know that in many countries with which the EU cooperates, there are serious gaps in the rights of LGBTIQ people. Through this strategy, the kind of the idea, if I understand correctly, is to integrate these rainbow or gay rights into other policies, so that they would be a
Mm-hmm.
part of each policy of the European Union. And
Mm-hmm.
this brings me to actually kind of an essential
Mm-hmm.
approach, I think, which is that we cannot compartmentalize and start talking about LGBTIQ rights in a vacuum. They are obviously part of a much wider spectrum, the spectrum of the rainbow
Naturally.
of women's rights and as human rights in general. So we need to remember that any gay person who's poor is worse off than a rich gay person.
Mm-hmm.
And in many countries, a male gay person is better off than a female gay person, or vice versa. And so bearing in mind also that the general situation in many EU countries in employment is worse for rainbow people, meaning that from poorer working conditions, lower paid jobs, possibly even some limited access to education, results lower income. From lower income results poorer health through less access to healthcare. So if in this strategy we talk about access to healthcare, it needs to be borne in mind that access to healthcare is very much it's a class issue, it's a gender issue, it's a sexual orientation or gender issue. So
It's a skin color issue as well.
we yeah
The word
yeah so we
many
need an
say
intersectional
yes,
approach.
and many sources say that the most worst off people are are transgender people of color who work as sex workers,
Yeah.
or even without working in sex workers.
Mm,
Trans people of color
mm.
aren't the worst. So it's yes, it's true. It's intersectional, not just um, the plain orientation. That is
Yeah.
correct, and that needs to be um, not. It cannot be eradicated completely. never. But the thing, but this strategy the European Commission came out with in last November. It's a really positive thing they came out with. It should have been obviously this is this first ever EU strategy on this matter. This is the very first. We should have had the say this. This shouldn't be the first one. It should be number who knows how big from the European Union. But
Yes.
this was published, this press release. If you indicate in the chat if you want me to provide these links in the description box. These links will be in the description box of the YouTube live stream. So if you haven't already, please visit my YouTube channel and subscribe. And like this video once you're there. But let me know in the chat if you want to me to provide these links in either the description box on YouTube or directly by email. My email address can be found on all platforms. The description box on YouTube and the post on Facebook, the two on my personal as well as the channel's page. The email address can be found there, and I can provide these links if you want. But please let me know in the chat. I'll be monitoring all chats here. So, how is it that the European Union has been babbling on about how they support LGBT plus rights, and this is the first one they come up with. This is the first 5-year plan they come up with, even though they've been babbling on about it for 20 years. How is it possible? Could you perhaps shed some light on it? Or do you have any idea as to why?
Yeah, maybe you could close that now. Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Well, better late than never, right?
Yes, I guess so. Yes.
Yes.
And as this says, the Lagerlögi has only exacerbated the situation.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And I think an important target group for your channel that you would like to reach are young people.
Of course.
And young people, if you're a young gay person, and you hear that the heads, that the government and the European Union will, in the framework of this LGBTQI strategy, take measures to improve your life. I think it's a very, very powerful signal. If we look away now for a second, away from the details, and we look at what's the value of the simple fact that this strategy exists, the recognition of the fact that in working life, in family law, in criminal law, in education, education is not something that the EU decides about. It's a national competence. And if you're a young person go to your the history and social studies book and have a look at what the European Union stands for and what kind of structures it has. We don't want to start lecturing about that.
Of course not.
And
No.
if you're a poor person who are in the UK, we regret the fact that you're no longer part of this value community which promotes the rights of LGBTIQ people. So the symbolic value of this gesture is enormous. And the fact that everyone has to not be in a closet, but to take out of the closet these things which they might, in some countries, rather not deal with.
Exactly.
So you mentioned countries where things are not so well, such as Romania. There was Bulgaria, etc. So even if these countries didn't make as much progress as the most progressive countries, it is certain that some progress will be made.
Of course, it
If
will
you
be made eventually.
yeah.
But however, unfortunately, it will take a lot more time. It took the European Union decades to come up with the first one. Who knows how long it will take for these things to take effect. Even in those countries that are well off in this sense, we have issues. Finland, UK, Belgium, the Netherlands, etc., have issues. So I truly hope we'll get progress on this now that we actually do have this strategy from the European Commission, which I truly hope that all the member states will take seriously, especially those who had been sort of called out on this one. There are Poland, Hungary, etc., who have been called out on this by name on this one. Got the slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
But how much of a big deal this would have been, or how big of a smack was this on their wrists? For example, Hungary and Poland that were mentioned in the Euronews article.
Well, it's a big slap on the wrist, and of course there's the ongoing procedure on the rule of law. I won't go into details, but the Hungary and Poland and the reforms in the parties we mentioned, they have done things which are against the principles of rule of law, which is a cornerstone of the European Union. So this is yet another such slap on the wrist, as you say. But if I go back to what you just said earlier, things happening quickly or slowly. I would like to remind you that we have quite recently seen avalanches of changes of attitudes, and I would like to think that we are about to face a similar avalanche of changes of attitudes. Not only this strategy by the European Commission, but I think there are other signs in our time. Just think about Me Too, which in a very, very short period of time, from being one investigative journalism article in the New York Times investigating the film producer Harvey Epstein, became a worldwide movement which changed which changed the world, I think, in a way which would have been unimaginable some years ago. So suddenly, the sexual harassment and well, it was more serious than that, but let's call it that, was no longer just something that happened which you had to put up with if you want to make progress in your career. This was a very, very quick change. Now, and it was something that had been building momentum. Now, then we have Black Lives Matter, also a movement which did not come out of nowhere, obviously, it building momentum. And then these two coming together in women's and especially Black and brown women's movement in the United States, and actually the women's movement, the women's march to Washington D.C.
Yes.
after Hillary Clinton lost the elections, was led by brown rainbow women.
Yes.
And maybe
it's an
now it's
interesting
time
phenomenon.
to pay more specific attention to LGBTQ rights. But things can happen slowly, which they very often do, unfortunately. But there is this something in our time which wants to make the world change quickly. So I don't know. And young people today, they do not put up with the kind of shit that older people had to put up with for all kinds of reasons. They stand up for themselves,
which is a good
even
good
though
thing these days.
we know that many young people, especially in small towns, who belong to the LGBTQ community, have a difficult time at school because they feel very isolated. But the social media have changed things for the better and for the worse, obviously. But all these young people now, they know where they can find other people who are similar to them. So, and these network of peers, the grassroots movement is no longer local; it's global. So, even if you belong to the tiniest minority, there's always somebody out there who's your peer.
Yes, indeed.
So
It's
that's
wonderful,
why, yeah.
It's in this time and age that we live in right now. It's a time of social media and getting the message out there, like across the globe, in a matter of seconds, which the youngsters of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s did not have that privilege. I've talked to, on my channel, I've talked to a number of people so far, and those who stand in this very context of the equality of of the European Union LGBTQ plus equality strategy, those who stand out are Susan and Jenny, with whom I had the privilege of talking to last year in
That
season
was,
one.
yeah, well, those chats were absolutely. If you're watching this video or this live, do find those those videos on Heidi's channel, because it's
It's
the
on the
kind of
playlist season one.
the kind of perspective you get from listening to Susan, and then there was also
Jenny,
there was yeah, Jenny, but and then there was Tanya,
yes,
and who was
the
the
younger lady in her
yeah,
Susanna.
right,
Yes,
like a
your
good name,
namesake.
the woman with a good
But
name.
that yes, but they what I want to what my point was is it sometimes it takes a long time. Susan told us what she remembered from the times when she was 19 during the Stonewall riots
Hmm.
in the summer of love 69. Uh, and it was the human rights of LGBT plus people were zero back then
Yeah, yeah,
in the
but
US and around the globe.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but it has taken half a century from that was the start of the Pride movement, the Stonewall riots in '69. Susan talked us through that time. It took us half a century to get here where we are with the Pride
Mm,
movement that started back then.
yeah.
Sometimes I hope this strategy doesn't have to boil for half a century to
Mm.
get the same effect we have with um, we've had with the Pride movement. What do you think now that it's been a few months since the um,
Yeah.
article and the strategy published and the Euronews? It was early November last year.
Mm.
It caused, as I understand it, it caused quite a stir, especially with the countries in question, Hungary and Poland, that were called out.
Mm.
What? Where is it now? What now that the worst has cooled off? The first rush has cooled off. Where are
Well,
we now?
now, well, well, you should know that if there is a 5-year strategy, it consists of zillions of little things, such as, you know, we are the next thing, I guess, is the member states presenting their own action plans, and that will be interesting. That's
Yes.
certainly so. We'll see what kind of ideas they come up with. So yeah, and I can tell you that the Finnish organization for LGBTQ rights, SETA, was very pleased with this strategy, as was the Europe-wide organization,
Such as
ILGA Europe.
trans.
That's what I read. But
Mm,
well, it remains to be seen. And this is work for building the future. So
okay.
okay, now
Now, if
you're
there are
asking me.
any questions, something you wish to ask, comments, because we will be wrapping up in most like probably 15 minutes from now.
15
Um,
minutes.
10 to 15 minutes from now. So,
Yeah, I think
um,
we've said a lot, I think.
yes, I think we have said plenty. plenty. But this is something there would be a lot to say about in many ways. This is such a big thing to discuss,
Yeah.
as well as valuable. It is this. I think this sends a valuable message from an important and valuable message from uh, the European Commission and by extension the European Union. How do you see this from the point of view from that point of view that why is it and how big is the effect or the ripple effect from this splashdown and then ripples go. How do you think I think we could call this butterfly effect. How big do you think it is?
I
Or
don't know.
how
Well,
big
yeah.
how
Well,
big message does it send?
no, the message is huge because now these things are talked about, and yeah, I don't know. I have very little to add in terms of kind of general comments. There's the improving now talking about LGBTQ rights at the highest level and at the European Union level, at the member states level, meaning that this thing is definitely now it is on the agenda. Um, I have to. I just remembered an event which I attended probably some 25 years ago, where there were members of political parties who had been invited to discuss gay issues, and this was before some elections,
Yes.
and wow, it was very difficult. They didn't have anything to say. They didn't even
Yeah.
have the kind of any politician now would know that if they have a generally positive attitude, they know at least something they can say. But there were people then who just didn't know what to say, even
Yes.
though they were attending. They were invited guests attending the debate. They had very little to say. But now that's in the past, and in the future, these issues will be mainstream. They are already mainstream. They are on the agenda. But we mustn't forget that
Yes.
this is not just. It's not about words and strategies. We are discussing a particular strategy now, but it has an impact or not on very real people.
Yes.
And very
Yeah,
real people either benefit from measures that are taken or not.
exactly.
So, well, it's a positive thing. There is hope, and we hope that a better future for young LGBTQ kids is possible through this and other changes in our societies. Definitely, it's a societal shift. It's a part of a societal shift.
And a big one, I think.
Yeah.
And okay, and at this point I'm going to give you say to tell you thank you and goodbye for this evening. I will be continuing here to entertain my guests with the fact sheet of what this ruling or this plan actually means, what it contains, and what it's all about. And now I'm gonna love you and leave you, and we'll be in touch with you. Good night. And I'll be right back with you guys. Well, hello everyone. Now, I said thank you and good night behind the scenes to my wonderful guest. Now, as I said and promised, I will go through the fact sheet of this equality strategy 2020 to 2025. Now, I'll bring it up on the screen. There we go. And there we go. Now we have this fact sheet was published by the European Commission alongside with the equality strategy we discussed with my guest. So these are statistics from and what it really boils down to. So basically, the EU has made a step-by-step progress towards LGBTIQ equality over the past years, but the discrimination still goes on. And in preparations for this strategy, polls were carried out, and in 2019, and 76% of EU citizens were of the opinion that LGBTQI plus people should have the same rights as straight people, cis and straight people, compared to 71 in 2015. Previously, we talked about how things might take quite a bit of time to progress. I mentioned, for example, Susan, who gave us an account of the Stonewall events the Stonewall riots in '69. It has taken 50 years, over 50 years, up until now. But so up until 2019. And however, 43% felt that LGBT people felt discriminated against in 2019 compared to 38 in 2012, which is quite surprising. It's horrible that it has grown by 5%. According to my math, it's 5%. Tell me if I'm wrong. Now, good night, Sirpa Lehtonen. Goodbye. And good night. And if you are still here watching, thanks for sticking around despite my guest leaving for tonight. And one of the goals of this strategy is promoting diversity. and their vision is to have a European Union where diversity is celebrated, and that is a good, admirable goal, shall we say. And in the EU, we should be safe, have equal opportunities, and fully participate in society. And here it makes the point that this is the very first LGBTIQ strategy for the European Union, which, as stated previously, it's quite surprising. It's surprising to me that it's the first ever, as I said previously. But it's good that the European Union has now we do have the strategy, regardless of how many we've had, and they're aiming to. They have four key points: tackling discrimination, ensuring LGBTIQ people's safety, building LGBTIQ inclusive societies, and for leading the call for LGBTIQ equality around the world. It's not. They are right. It's not just. It's not just something they have or should have as an internal thing within the EU. They, of course, I think the priority is to fix things within the EU, and that, as I understand it, is the objective of this strategy, in order to create a safer Europe for everyone. Of course, this is just not giving the legal rights. It's not just that. It's intersectional, as was stated previously. We have also social issues. That is something that this includes social issues as well. As stated, as my guest probably mentioned, the LGBT plus people are more likely to be poor, to have less income than their cis straight counterparts. The most privileged person in Europe is white cis male, and the further away you go from that, you are, for example, black trans women of color, that those have huge amounts of social issues, and those social issues aren't just fixed by giving new rights. It's also building societies, building LGBTQI friendly societies. And here we have these quotes from different people, from 3 people around Europe, LGBTQ plus, and these 4 steps are enforcing and improving legal protection, promoting inclusion and diversity in workplaces, combating inequality in education, health, culture, and sport, and upholding rights of LGBTQ applicants for international protection. That was the tackling discrimination. As for Step two, they have ensuring the safety of these LGBT plus people, reinforcing legal protection for LGBTIQ, for crime, hate speech, hate crime, and violence. That unfortunately is still going on in our modern society. I hope we will get to reduce and hopefully eradicate hate crime and hate speech, and strengthening strengthening measures to combat the anti-LGBTIQ hate crime, combat for the anti-LGBTIQ online hate speech and disinformation. That is very, very important, in my opinion, to get going. We do have some obviously going in place as in terms from official governments, but not nearly as enough as we should have, and unfortunately we still do have certain places around on this planet we have unfortunate situations with hate crimes, and for example online, reporting the anti-LGBTIQ hate crime and exchanges of good practices, and protecting and promoting LGBTIQ people's bodily and mental health. Unfortunately, violence, both physical and mental violence towards LGBTIQ plus people, simply because of who they are, is still going on around this world, around even in Europe, which we tend to think as somewhat liberal place or continent compared to many others. And building LGBTIQ inclusive societies. In this, even my country, Finland, which is considered by many as a very liberal country, still has plenty to do. And it's not just Finland that has plenty of things to do. Many countries are far worse off than Finland. So, building inclusive societies is to ensure rights for LGBT plus people in cross-border situations, crossing the borders. As we mentioned, the non-EU partner joining their partner in the EU, joining their EU citizen partner in the EU, they might not get the same rights as they might have had previously in their country of origin. For example, if they move to a European country which does not recognize or the same-sex marriage law, which their country, the non-EU country of origin, does recognize, that will infringe the rights of these LGBTIQ people, and improving the legal protection of rainbow families crossing borders. This, we were also tackling this issue with my guest earlier, that the family rights are not always as straightforward with rainbow people as we would typically see with non-LGBT plus people or cis and straight people. there are way more obstacles in these situations, and improving recognition of trans and non-binary people and intersex people. As I mentioned before, I had a chat with Arthur Weber the day before last. On my previous live stream, we discussed some of the issues that I already discussed in the live stream prior to that I was supposed to have Arthur with me, but he couldn't attend due to unfortunate events. Please, by the way, whenever you happen to have questions or comments or wish to add something, please comment in the chat. Ask me in the chat, and I will address each and every single comment that I will get. No matter what, I will address. No, whether it be just saying hello, just send me a comment and I will address. And if you wish to ask something, whether it be about me, my channel, my my streaming schedule, which I will address towards the end. But if you wish to ask something about my streaming stuff, my what kind of stuff I use for streaming, etc., please just ask me in the chat. Now we were still in the point 3, step 3, fostering and enabling environment for civil society. Yes, having a civil society is important in order to have a good and proper platform for discussion. Having a civil discussion about any matter, be it the LGBTQI plus stuff, whether it be anything else. Having a civil society is paramount for a civil discussion and a respectful discussion. Now, and point 4, leading the call for LGBTIQ equality around the world. Yes, as has been already mentioned, I am of the opinion that yes, we do have gigantically huge issues with LGBTIQ plus rights within the European Union, as well as by extension the European continent. We should strengthen both the cross-national organizations such as EU, and many as the civil organizations such as ILGA Europe, Trans Europe, etc., to have strengthen their actions in both internal EU-wise in internal and external fight for these rights, fight for these rights to get them better. And as I understand it, they are attempting to integrate it in all of their policies, going going forward. And these are just few comments they have towards the end of the article of this fact sheet. Three comments. This is from an intersex person aged 35, living in Sweden. I am proud to be intersex. It is a matter of time until everyone has heard of it, and until everyone understands that biological sex is not binary. It will take longer for people to accept that everyone is free to choose how they identify. That is very correct. That is very correct. I agree with this person. And then from a gay man aged 28 living in Germany. I have been attacked in the corner of my street by a group of men, only because I was holding hands with my partner at the time. This is something why we need. This is one reason. If you needed one reason, this is the one that we need to get all the attitudes and legal rights in order. Because why is it that you have to get beaten up just for holding the hand of the person you love in public? Why? Tell me why. There is no good reason. And then I wish to go to the last comment. Slovak Romanian lesbian couple, 2 children living in Belgium. My wife and I are lucky enough to enjoy life with our 2 kids as a recognized family in Belgium. But as soon as we cross the border to our home countries, we are no longer a family. This makes us worry all the time. If something were to happen to me, my wife would be in a very difficult would have a very difficult time claiming her rights to our kids. This is correct. Unfortunately, things like this does happen. The reason why stuff like this happens is something that I just don't understand. Why do you have to have such horrible people making the rules? It's just not fair. Just not fair. Because 2 loving people can't be together, harming no one, having a family. Why is it so bad? It shouldn't be so bad, should it? But something that I would like to point out as the last thing I would like to show you. I'll be going in just a few minutes. Just bear with me. I want to share one more thing about the topic of what happens because the first Euronews article we had a look at, we mentioned Poland and Hungary, and what I still had an article, a very short one that I have at hand regarding this topic, especially in this case, Poland. I'll just, there we go. So basically, Krakow, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the capital of Poland, who funds LGBT shelter despite the government hostility. Saying Krakow has become the first city in Poland to finance an LGBT support shelter. This is amazing. This came up when I was prepping for the stream tonight. The shelter has been run by a charitable foundation. I called translates to the Voice of Heart since 2016, but has been struggling financially. Well, quite frankly, this was published. This article was published in just 2 months ago. Just over 2 months ago. So we have this lagerläge going on. So I wouldn't be surprised that that charitable foundations are struggling financially. Now, the organization offers temporary accommodation and psychological counseling for up to 12 homeless LGBT people at the facility. The city of Krakow is giving some 140,000 zlotys, 40,000 euros, to give stability and support the shelter over the next 2 years. That's quite generous, I would say. And the decision comes at a time when Poland's ruling conservative government has amplified hostile rhetorics against LGBT plus communities in the country. ILGA Europe, which I referred to earlier, which assesses European countries' commitment to LGBT plus rights and equality, ranked Poland the lowest of all in EU countries in 2020, which I'm not really surprised of, quite frankly. The city money is also going to be offered soon to shelter the is also to be offered soon to a shelter in the capital, Warsaw, where the mayor has signed a declaration of support for the LGBT community in 2019. The declaration drew a backlash from the conservative government. I'm baffled. I'm baffled. It's as to how this could stuff like that. Such negative things coming from the conservative governments coming up. What would be coming up in this day and age, in last year 2020, is quite baffling, quite frankly. With something that I really don't get. But listen, lovelings, I will be going now. For tonight, I'm all out on this subject. I will link the article of I will link the link to the European Commission press release regarding this strategy they published. This is I'll add it to the YouTube. It should be in, you'll find it later on. later on and during the remainder of this stream, you will find this in like so. You'll find it in my YouTube, on my YouTube live stream description box. You will find it as well. But now it's there. Now, please, I'm going to love you and leave you. Please, hey, stay safe, darlings, stay safe. It's tough times, really tough times. Just stay home as much as you can, wear the masks, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. Please, stay safe. And I'll be now going.